gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, it's time!
What is going on? Welcome, everybody, to the main event of the evening alongside my brother Enrique Contreras. My name is Jose Contreras, and we are here on our regular time slot, on our normal time slot, every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Before we start the show, let's go ahead and bring in my co-host, Ricky. What's going on, man?
What's going on, bro?
None, man. None. Beautiful day. An amazing day.
Great.
Great day.
Yep.
And now we're here about to talk a whole bunch of sports, combat sports. We're gonna
Right.
preview you. We're gonna review UFC 286. We're gonna talk some WWE, some wrestling, and then of course we're gonna preview this weekend's boxing big fight between Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. So that's for sure. That's the main event. That's gonna be it. That's the main event of the evening. Is that right then and there? But let's start off with our opening match, Ricky. Let's start up with the main card, and let's go in. UFC 286 was this past Saturday. Not a bad card. Not a bad card at all. It was headlined by the rematch, by the trilogy, the final match of the trilogy between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards for the welterweight championship. And Ricky, last time we seen these two guys, we both said it was luck and it was also skill, but it was an amazing knockout from Leon Edwards
Yep.
that got him that championship to begin with, that set up this rematch here. But this fight was completely different.
Yes. Yes. You hear me, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm having
Yep.
some difficulties on my end over here.
No.
But
We hear you
I
perfectly.
awesome. Awesome. All right. Yeah. This was Leon Edwards' chance to actually prove that the last fight was no fluke, that it wasn't luck, that he is the true welterweight champion, and he came in and he came into this fight and he did just that. He
Yep.
successfully defended his title. He looked very sharp in there. He was landing a lot of great strikes, a lot of leg kicks, and a
Yeah.
lot of body kicks. And that's due to the fact that Kamaru Usman was very wary of the head kick. You know, he wasn't trying to get caught a second time in this fight. So he had
Yeah.
his hand up, but in doing that, he exposed the body. And he was more susceptible to the leg kicks, and that's what Leon was doing pretty much all night. He landed also some pretty good knees. I think one in particular that hurt Kamaru Usman. He landed a body kick that also kind of it hurt Usman. Usman almost went down, but and he also showed some great takedown defense too. For the most part, he
He
defended a lot of
really
the
did.
takedowns. He
Yeah.
did. He did, and then when he did get taken down, he would quickly get back up. He was brought back up. The one thing I will say, he did commit a lot of fouls. There was
Yeah.
one instance where he did grab the fence and prevented a takedown, and he got a point taken away. And that could have almost, changed the course of the fight. But in the end, Edwards was ahead. Some might say that Usman might have won, but I had Leon winning this fight.
Yeah. I look. We both kind of figured that Kamaru Usman would come out and fight a much better fight than how can I really say fight a much better fight when the last fight was great. He was winning that last fight all the way up until the last round when he just got caught. And
Yep.
but I think you and I both came into this fight knowing, okay, that's not going to happen again. That slip up, that knockout won't happen again. He'll, like you, as you mentioned, he would be ready for it. He would protect himself and prepare for something like that. Be more aware. Um, and he was, because as you mentioned, he was protecting his head, so he wouldn't get so he wouldn't get kicked in the face. But at the same time, as you mentioned, he was leaving his body open, and
Yeah.
credit goes to Leon Edwards for not only having a plan but then having a backup plan. Hey, if I can't knock this guy out like I did the last fight, then
Yeah.
if
Right.
his face or his head's not going to be that accessible, then what's plan B? Well, plan B is I'm going to kick him still, but it's going to be where he's going to be open, which is going to be his leg kick, which is going to be the legs,
Like, yeah,
which is
he
going to be
kicked
the
the shit out of
body.
his legs. They were
Yeah.
adding up very, very quickly.
And exactly, that slows the opponent down. Someone who wrestles, someone who uses his body, his strength in those legs and those bodies to take someone like Leon Edwards down. You need that. So, but you take it. But if you eliminate that early, then you have a much better shot at controlling the fight, and that's exactly what Leon Edwards did this fight. With that being said, Ricky, were you surprised that Leon Edwards won by majority decision? Because he did win. For those who didn't, he did win, but it was a majority decision. It wasn't unanimous. It wasn't. I guess it was unanimous, but it wasn't a split decision. Why do you think that was?
Well, they were in London. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but he was in his hometown. He was in his hometown, right? And I guess maybe the fouls, the fence grab, maybe had something to do with it. I don't know, but I do think that
if it had something to do with it, wouldn't it win against Leon Edwards?
Probably would have. Yeah, it probably would have. It should have, but he still looked like the fresher fighter in there. He was landing a lot more than Usman was, and credit to Leon Edwards, man. I had him, three rounds to one, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Well, actually, no, 3 rounds to two. My bad. So, I mean, that's how I saw it, and it's just those leg kicks that were adding up, the body kicks, and the great takedown defense. Usman didn't look dominant like he usually was. He wasn't looking himself in that fight.
He was not.
Especially he did not look the same like he did in the second fight.
No.
So, I don't know. I guess he went in really, hesitant. He knew what happened. He knew cautious. There you go. There's the word. That's the word I was looking for. Cautious. He was in there pretty cautious. He didn't want to get knocked out again with that head kick, and it showed, man. It showed. He fought really cautious, a little too cautious.
Out of all those fights he had, though, for me, like I always have the saying, if it's not broke, why fix it, right? And for so long, Usman was dominating opponents, dominating that division, defending champ each pay-per-view, right? He was the guy. Why switch it up now? Look, you got caught, but you were winning. You were dominating that fight. You were winning that fight. You just got caught at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to do what you do. It just you could be hesitant, but still be the same fighter you've always have been. I feel like he just came in with a whole different game plan. That one knockout really changed everything. It seemed like, and I didn't expect that at all.
No. He did try to go to his wrestling, but Leon was prepared for that. He came in and he came prepared to defend his title in his hometown crowd. He wasn't going to be denied in his hometown. So it did go to the judges, and a lot of people might have, I've seen a lot of people thinking that maybe Usman might have won a split decision, but I still had Leon winning. I think he did enough, and I think he did more damage, especially to the leg, with the leg kicks and the body kicks. Really hurt Usman.
There's no doubt about it. Leon Edwards won that fight without a doubt. But I'm one of those guys that probably said, I think it was more of a split decision because Usman wasn't getting dominated like that. He was. Yeah, it seemed like Leon Edwards was doing more, but it wasn't a dominant fight or dominant win by Leon Edwards. Not in my opinion, at least.
Right.
But with that being said, Leon Edwards is the champ, man, and that basically ends the chapter between these two guys, at least for now, and which is stunning because, man, you look at that Amanda Nunes, and I bring this up the last 2 weeks, but that Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena fight, right? Nunes got stunned, she got caught, she lost, but then she comes back hungrier, because as a champion, as a dominant champ for so long, it's kind of hard, at least in my opinion, to keep that hunger when you're the one being hunted the entire time. Right? But now if you're Kamaru Usman, you get knocked out. You should come back hungrier than anybody. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just
it's different, man. I mean, I don't think he's ever been knocked out in his life. So that when a fighter gets knocked out for the first time, it changes a lot of things. It basically changes everything that they do and everything that they thought. When you get knocked, especially when you get knocked out nasty like that from a head kick, you become a lot more cautious. You become, you go in there and you tend to worry about whether you're going to get caught again. So you tend to overthink. Sometimes fighters tend to overthink things, and they go on another career slide. They tend to lose. They tend to to get knocked out again.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing because Amanda Nunes was submitted, right? And and Juliana Pena did not back down from her. She was not afraid of Amanda Nunes like her previous opponents,
Right.
right? So and in the rematch, Nunes was able to come back and be hungrier again and show that she is the dominant force in that division. Kamaru Usman, on the other hand, was knocked out by a much taller fighter, a much better striker, and and he went in there knowing that too. And I think maybe he overthought things in there, and he was a little too cautious.
Well, that ultimately lost him his championship, or at least another opportunity at a championship. If anything, Kamaru Usman now goes down the list. He'll stay in the top 3, of course. I mean, how can you not? But at the same time, man, that's it. Like his next fight won't be for a belt. And when's the last time we were able to say that? It's been a very long time.
Been a long run.
It's been a long run. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if he slows it down, calms it, retires, or not, just takes a break. But regardless of the fact, that's that with Kamaru Usman. But for Leon Edwards, Ricky, Dana White has came out and said he wanted his next opponent to be a one Kobe Covington, which to me, I'm pretty shocked because I like you and I we're both really big on someone like Khamzat Chimaev, and we both said this guy is the real deal and up, winning his fights. He was like on an Islam Makhachev type run, where I feel like he should be the one to deserve. I mean, he literally faced the number 2 guy at the time, which was Gilbert Burns, and beats him in a in a really good fight, right? Unranked, all the way up to second, and you win. How is he not the next title? Why is it that Kobe Covington gets his title fight?
So not only that, but he was the backup for this fight. If one or the other guy, for whatever reason gets injured or bows out of the fight, Kobe Covington came in and weighed in. He came in, waited at the welterweight division, waiting in the wings if somebody were to drop out. So he was gonna get this shot if something were to happen.
Wow.
I don't think he deserves this at all.
Me either.
I don't think he deserves this at all. The dude hasn't fought in over a year. The last guy he beat was Jorge Masvidal, who's been on the slide himself.
Yeah.
And not to mention, he's already lost twice to the guy that Leon Edwards had beaten twice now.
Yep.
Two title fights. So I'm shocked. I'm like, how the hell does this guy get a title shot before Khamzat Chimaev, who I believe is moving up to the middleweight division? So assuming he does, why not Gilbert Burns? Even after his fight with Jorge Masvidal, who many expect he's going to win, why how come Gilbert Burns won't get that title shot? What about Bilal Muhammad, who has unfinished business with Leon Edwards and is on an 8-fight winning streak? How come he doesn't get it? So yeah, it boggles my mind. Kobe Covington, I do not believe he does not. He disappeared for a year, and all of a sudden he comes back and gets a title shot. I don't agree with it.
I think Dana White sees what would sell more tickets, what would make more money.
Well,
and for so long, everybody wanted a piece of Kobe Covington for the incident that was between him and Jorge Masvidal in the Miami nightclub, where he called the cops and snitched on Jorge Masvidal, got him arrested, and the entire MMA community wanted to fight that man, wanted that guy to get his ass beat.
Right.
So maybe
he's not a pay-per-view draw though. I mean, let's get that out the way. Kobe Covington is not a pay-per-view draw.
But he could sell a fight. He has a big mouth. He talks a lot of shit. Him and Edwards would be entertaining leading up to the fight because both guys, I feel like are a bit cocky. Covington way more than Edwards, obviously.
Yeah.
But Edwards has a little he has a little cockiness to him too.
Oh, yeah. Dude. Bro, he deserves to be that way because everybody, including Covington, we're talking Covington, Masvidal, Usman, I think too. Like everybody would look down on Leon Edwards like, I don't want to fight this guy, and blah blah blah. A lot of people, for a long time, Leon Edwards was avoided, and he had a lot of bad luck, couldn't get a fight, so now the tables have turned. Guys like Masvidal said, "I'll never fight this guy and and make him any money or famous." Now Masvidal's begging for a fight with him. Colby Covington, the same thing now.
Right.
So I like that the tables have turned and in Leon Edwards' favor. Now he can sit back and lick his chops and be like, decide what he wants to do. I guess he can play the games too, like everyone else was playing the games with him.
Well, with that being said, they didn't white pitch the fight between him and Covington as his next fight, and he turned it down. Why is that? Is it because of what you just said? Maybe a little payback, a little penmanship, sportsmanship there. Like, okay, you know what? You did this to me. I'm doing it back to you. I don't want you. You don't deserve it.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is that. And another thing too, he did make a great point. He was on the MMA Hour, Ariel Helwani show.
Yeah.
And he specifically said, look at my road to this title and then look at his. He explained that he went on a 10-fight winning streak, was having a lot of the top 5 guys avoiding him, wouldn't give him a fight, wouldn't give him the time of day. And it was a long road for him, and he finally reached to the top of the mountain and won the welterweight title, right? Colby, and not to mention, he was offered a fight with Khamzat Chimaev, which he took.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, I think it was Chimaev that had to pull out because of COVID, and Colby Covington actually during the whole year that he had been gone was offered a fight 4 times with Khamzat and rejected the fight 4 times.
Yeah, he didn't want the fight.
He didn't want the fight. And then
was calling him out, talking shit about him, and Colby would want nothing to do with it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So he brought that up. He rejected the fight 4 times. When I rejected it, threatened to reject the fight, he said that he was threatening he was going to get taken off the rankings because he hadn't fought in a while. Talking about Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, Covington rejects the fights and then gets an immediate title shot. So he also said that he doesn't believe he deserves it. He deserves a title shot. He thinks he should have another fight against a top 5 guy before he gets a title shot. And he said that if they present him a contract to fight Colby Covington, he's going to flat out reject it. And those were his words.
Good. I'm glad hearing that, because you're right. That it's BS. I'm 100% BS. If you're doing it right, I mean, I know I said it because he knows how to sell a fight and he talks a lot of shit. Yeah. But do you think that's the real reason why he would have Colby Covington as the next contender?
It has to be. And the funny thing too, Leon Edwards brought up the fact of Dana White privilege, that Colby Covington is the latest one to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's real. You see guys like Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor, Sugar Sean O'Malley,
John Jones.
For
years, John Jones.
Yeah, for years, John. Exactly.
Michael Chandler was the one that Tony Ferguson. I remember Tony Ferguson was the one that coined the term, and he told Michael Chandler, "You had Dana White privilege," exactly. and it started this whole thing. So so it's a real thing, man, and maybe that's what it is too. And there's so many other guys who have been active that deserve that title shot more than Colby Covington.
Wow. Who do you think should deserve the next title shot, Ricky?
Well, if it isn't Khamzat, which I put him at the top of the list, but if he's going up to middleweight, I would say it's either Bilal Muhammad or Gilbert Burns, assuming he beats Masvidal next, in the next pay-per-view. Those are the guys I can think of right off the bat right now.
Okay. I would love to see Gilbert Burns. I really would. I would love to see Gilbert Burns get a shot at the title. I'm a huge fan of him. But I agree with that. I think those 2 guys definitely make sense. I personally want Khamzat Chimaev. He's my number 1 guy.
Yeah.
I get he wants to go up to middleweight, but man, if you were dominating welterweight, just complete the mission. You know what I mean? Finish it.
I mean, he missed his last fight. He missed weight, so yeah. I don't know if he did it because he didn't care, or if there's weight issues that he can't cut down to 170 pounds. Who knows? But yeah, if I definitely would put him at the top there. He's still, I believe, number 2 or 3 in the rankings right now.
Yeah,
and so he's long overdue for a title shot if he wants to remain at 170 pounds. But there's Bilal Muhammad who who fought Leon Edwards, went to a no contest because of an accidental eye poke. So there's unfinished business there.
Yeah.
And then Gilbert Burns worked his way back up too. So those are the three guys that I would say deserve a title shot over Big Mouth Covington, who calls the cops like a little bitch.
Exactly. You guys are listening to the main event brought to you by Star 6 Media, guys. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Star 6 Media. That's Instagram at Star 6 Media. You would find a lot of our show clips. You will find posts, sports posts, it's more than just combat sports there, man. We have a plethora of shows, so you get a plethora of content. So make sure to follow Star 6 Media on Instagram at Star 6 Media. And this next topic is brought to you by our Instagram page on Star 6 Media. Ricky, let's talk about the co-main event of the evening. Justin Gaethje, man. Right when you think that this guy is just he's starting to fall off a little bit, just he doesn't have it anymore. His time is done. At title contention, he just surprises you, man, because he's just an overall great fighter, and he had a fight this weekend with Fiziev. And you and I both said we thought Fiziev was going to come and win this fight,
right,
hands down. But Michael Gaethje said otherwise. Ricky, he came out and won this fight. Why was that?
Because, man, Justin Gaethje is a motherfucking dog, man. That dude. I mean, just like you said, when you think he's about to fall off, he gets in there, man, and he bangs.
Yeah,
he goes in there. All the wars that he's been in, and he goes in there, and he still shows that he's the top warrior in that octagon. It ended up being fight of the night. It was a back and forth.
Yep.
Very exciting fight. AG had the upper hand though, especially landing numerous uppercuts. I mean, just connecting uppercuts, opening up a really nasty gash over Fiziev's right eye or left eye. I think it was the right eye, and just took the decision, man, and went in there and just showed everybody that he's still here and he wants to go for another title run before he hangs up the gloves.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. Why not? I mean, after a fight like this, when you have someone like Fiziev who's on the up and up, who we all thought would get a title shot, no, you defeat him soundly. Okay, yeah, why not? I don't see why not. If it makes sense, Volkanovski said it best. When he had to face Max Holloway for the third or fourth time, if it makes sense, I'll do it. And that's how a champion should be. If it's the same guy moving up the ranks over and over and over again, hey, then I guess it's just then you two are the best two fighters. Fight, right?
Right.
There's nothing else to say about that. If it makes sense for Justin Gaethje to get a title shot once again, I say do it. You never know.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, look, I think he's about maybe another fight or two away before getting another title shot. But this right here, man, beating a guy who is, like you said, is on the up and up, who many predicted would win, because he's just as a warrior as Justin Gaethje is, but the veteran, showed his skills, man. He showed that he's still one of the top guys in this division, and one of the hardest and still one of the hardest hitters too.
Yeah. The guy can scrap, man. He can scrap 100%, and he's shown that against Fiziev this past Saturday. What's next for him, Ricky? Do you think he gets a title shot, or you said he's at least one or two fights away? What fight makes sense for someone like Justin Gaethje?
Man, I could say Beneil Dariush, even though he should probably get the next title shot. It's tough, man, because you got Conor McGregor coming in, fighting Michael Chandler, right? I would say maybe get the winner of that fight, especially if it's Conor.
Do they deserve it though? Both guys are coming off losses. Both guys are coming. Both guys are coming off Dana White privileges here.
Right.
Does that really make sense?
Absolutely not. But I'm not going to complain about a Justin Gaethje Michael Chandler part 2.
Right. Exactly.
And I certainly am not going to complain about a first time ever Justin Gaethje and Conor McGregor. There's also Dustin Poirier out there too, so we don't know we don't know what's next for him.
Yeah.
So after beating Michael Chandler in the last fight, so
yeah.
So there's a couple options there. So we'll see what they go with.
That's why I feel like it should be Dariush and Poirier. Winner gets a title shot. That makes the
Right.
most sense. You have
That
two
makes
guys
sense.
coming off. I mean, you have two guys who are on winning streaks, coming off two big wins, who are on top of the division. Why not?
Right.
Winner gets a title shot.
That makes
That's
more
how
sense.
it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
You know, you're bringing in this fight between Chandler and McGregor, which is going to be great. Trust me, we're not complaining. As you mentioned, we're not going to complain about that fight. But if that fight automatically gets the next title shot, then it's like, oh, come on. Then what are you doing? What's the point of the rankings then? If that's the case, you're just gonna.
Who needs rankings when you have Dana White privilege?
Exactly. You know,
Who needs
and
that?
I get it. I get it. These are champions or guys who you know is gonna bring money, who's gonna draw attention, who's gonna bring money. I guess that's the biggest thing in this sport. You know these guys are gonna bring in money, right? Draw in numbers, but still, it just makes no sense to me. Like,
Right.
do it the right way. You know what I mean?
True.
Do it
What?
the right way. But for
What
someone
you
like
know what? No, go ahead.
no, but for someone like Fizzy, Ricky, now what? You know, you have a golden opportunity here against someone like Justin Gaethje, someone well known, with some star power. A win against Justin Gaethje would have propelled you up to talks for a title contention, but it didn't happen. What's
No.
next for him?
No.
What's next for him going forward?
Well, to heal up from that cut, obviously, and then just go back to the drawing board. I can't think of anybody who he could face right now in the welterweight division. But yeah, hey, you know what? It wasn't exactly a domination. It was pretty close. But, that the third round,
Yeah.
he did lose it pretty widely. So I don't see this hurting them that much. So we'll see what happens when they give him next.
Yeah, I agree. I think for someone like him, who's still an up and up. I mean, regardless of this fight and the result of this fight, a couple more wins here and he's right back in it. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy was dominant. Right. He can be very dominant. So I'm not worried about him either. But unfortunate for him, man. Justin Gaethje came out on top. It was the better fighter. He was the better fighter. So
yeah.
Ricky, real quick, UFC 287 has is the next pay-per-view coming up April 8th. So not that far away. April 8th, we have the rematch between Adesanya and Alex Pereira. We have Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal in the welterweight division. That's the co-main event. We have Rafat and Adrian Yanez in the bantamweight division. What about those three fights? What about that card in general that excites you? Because that's going to be the next card we talk about.
I think the one thing for me, the one that excites me the most is the rematch, the main event.
Yeah.
There is a lot of history between these guys, man. That goes beyond the UFC. It goes back to the kickboxing days. The same thing that happened with Leon Edwards and Usman, the second fight. Same thing happened here. Adesanya was winning that fight and all of a sudden in the fifth round, Alex Pereira just catches a second win, gets in there and stops Israel Adesanya. Someone that that hasn't done that to Adesanya at 185 pounds.
Best person to do that was best person in that division was him, Alex Pereira, way back when, before the UFC.
Yeah, before the UFC. But no one is able to do that to him in the UFC in the middleweight division. He did have that loss against Jan Blachowicz, but that was at 205, right?
Yeah.
But no one was able to stop Adesanya in the UFC. And
right.
Pereira, who's done it before outside of the UFC, comes in and does it again. So
twice before.
Yes. So here we go again, and that's the fight. That's the most intriguing to me. Can Pereira do it again? He's done it before. He's done it more than once. Can he do it again? Can he hang on to that middleweight title, or is Adesanya going to come in, and finally beat this man? Is he finally gonna? I mean, because this is something that keeps haunting him. It keeps coming back to him and haunts him. Will Adesanya finally defeat this man that has been tormenting him? In his fight career.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
23-2 in the UFC, Ricky. And that Pereira just his last win was a shocker because again, as you mentioned, it came in late in the last round. After in a fight where Adesanya was winning, was pretty much dominating.
Right.
But puncher's chance, man. We say it all the time. When you have that anything is possible, and we've seen that for sure. So that's going to be a good card, Ricky. What I'm more excited about is the Gilbert Burns Jorge Masvidal fight, because we know
Right.
these two guys are gonna sit there and scrap. There's not going to be no type of ground game going here. Although I know Burns has a bit of a ground game, but
He
that's
does.
going to be that's going to be a fight. That's going to be a fight. These two guys are definitely going to be standing toe to toe.
I think in this fight, it's gonna be up to Burns what kind of fight this is gonna be, because he
you're
is
right.
pretty good. He is pretty good on the ground.
Yeah.
And if he decides to take down Masvidal and keep him down there, he could do that. And and it turns
Similar
out not
to
to
what
be such a
Covington
great
did.
fight.
Yeah, similar to what Covington did, basically.
Yeah, and then it could turn out not being such a great fight. But if he wants to stand up and test his chin and test the chin of Masvidal, then that could be a pretty interesting stand-up battle right there. So
yeah, a huge fight with huge ranking and title implications there. You know, you never know after this fight what happens, what's introduced to Dana White and Leon Edwards, who's the champion in that division. I mean, if he doesn't want to face Colby Covington, I mean, why not face one of these two guys?
Well, if you listen to Leon Edwards, it's almost like he's pulling for Masvidal to win this fight because he wants to fight him.
Really?
As much as we all feel that Masvidal does not deserve a title shot.
Right.
Leon, legitimately does not like Jorge Masvidal. They have a history, the 3-piece in the soda thing, and I guess he wants to get him back for that. So, it could happen, but Masvidal has to win, and I don't know if it's gonna happen against Gilbert Burns, but it almost sounds like he's kind of pulling for him.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would both fights intrigue me. You and I both say that Masvidal doesn't deserve a shot, but because of the backstory, I would want to see it for sure.
That sells pay-per-views right there.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It really does. But yeah, that's UFC 287. And once again, it's Saturday, April 8th. And my brother and I will preview that card the week of. So make sure to tune in for that here on the main event. All right, Ricky, let's get into some WWE. Talk a little bit of wrestling. I like to read the dirt sheets here now and then, and I'm reading, and I'm looking around, I'm scouring the internet to see what's going on in the wrestling business, what's being rumored, what's the talks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I came across an article that said the titles should be split, or they're planning to split them up by SummerSlam. To me, they should have been split up last pay-per-view. But that's just me. They should have been split up this year. We should not have been going into WrestleMania with both titles on Roman, with both titles on Usos, but I get it. I get it. I get it. It means more. It means much more for the WrestleMania main event when it's for two titles than just one. So I 100% understand that, right? But also reading that article, they also say how frustrating it has been because they've been trying to find the right time to split the titles, and because it was Vince who put them together with Roman, and it's been Triple H been struggling to kind of find a way to kind of split them up, right? Because you have both championships from both brands on a part-time champion who isn't normally there every week, which is an issue. Right. That being said, they want to split it up by SummerSlam. So I'm bringing this up because I was like, okay, well, this is a good question here because I want to see
how do you do it?
Right. I want to ask you how you do it, and I also want to ask you who loses the title. So who wins at WrestleMania, and who loses those titles?
I mean, I'm just as stumped as Triple H is. How do you get at least one title off of Roman or both? And because at WrestleMania, say Cody wins, now the both titles are on him. So then how are you gonna take one title off of him? I mean, it's I'm just stumped. I don't know how you could go about it outside of the fact of the champion drops one of the titles and then they started, but they're not going to go that way. It's just, it's kind of hard to see how they're going to do this and how they could get out of this, or just make it just one belt, one champion. He's on both shows. They're doing that anyway.
They're doing it anyways. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. They're doing it anyways. one thing about that, right, is that you're seeing more just of the same wrestlers being utilized over and over, both on Raw and SmackDown. I get it's WrestleMania season, so you gotta push the cards at WrestleMania. So you're gonna utilize all the guys, but then you still have guys like AJ Styles, who is not on the WrestleMania card, who isn't being used right now. You have tag teams like the New Day, who really aren't going to be used at WrestleMania. You don't really see much of them. LA Knight doesn't have a title match or doesn't have a match at WrestleMania yet. You still have guys like Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler's still on there. Who knows where the hell Bobby Roode is? I'm just saying, like, you have so many wrestlers and so much talent on the roster that's not being utilized. To me, this is how I would do it. If you're gonna have the title split at SummerSlam, right? Let's say Cody. I think it makes more sense to have Cody win at WrestleMania for that reason, right? Because if you have Roman win, then it's like, okay, who takes the belts off Roman? If you're gonna split them, then Roman almost has to lose twice. How is that gonna happen? How are you gonna make someone who just literally had a 1,000-day reign lose 2 titles? Obviously, one would be against Cody. He will lose one to Cody. But when is he going to lose the next one? How would you do that? Are you going to keep him part-time and just still have a part-time champion? But then who's going to beat him for the other title? Who right now is big enough for that? It doesn't make sense. That's why I think Cody does win at WrestleMania. Does win both titles at WrestleMania. And at SummerSlam, he just loses one. So you at least still have him as a champion for Raw, and the SmackDown champion could be a heel. Who is the biggest heel or could be the biggest heel on SmackDown right now? I'll tell you who. Gunther. I think, and it makes sense because you remember that Royal Rumble. They were the last 2 guys at the Rumble. They kind of had a story there. That could creep up and makes more sense to me after WrestleMania. If Cody wins the titles, then you bring Gunther back in the fold, wanting the title shot, one title shot, and then you could then have him as the champion for either Raw or SmackDown, right? And then you have a heel champion, you have a babyface champion, and then you could do your own thing as creative. I feel like you have more control that way as opposed to Roman winning it, and then you're still stumped on who the hell's going to take these titles off him.
Well, then that begs the question, at least for me. Why didn't they, since the whole story was that Dusty Rhodes never won the WWE title, why didn't Cody challenge for just the WWE title at WrestleMania?
That's why I wanted Sammy to win on Elimination Chamber. I thought it made sense. You had Sammy win. And that Sammy, look, the thing is, they could have been like, Sammy, you don't deserve a title shot. But you know what? Instead of giving you a chance at both titles, I'll give you a chance at one. Just because I want to beat your ass. I don't know. You're Roman Reigns. You can say whatever the fuck you want. But to me, that makes so much sense. You don't deserve a title shot, at least not for both. But I'll give you one title shot, and then boom, you have Sammy win.
Yeah, but then Roman Reigns losing before WrestleMania kind of takes away the aura of Roman Reigns going in.
I get it.
Into the main event, right, of WrestleMania, because
right.
he's walking around tribal chief. That aura that he has that presence, that aura about him. I think that would have, that would have brought it down a lot going into the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So, but again, that's why I say, if the story is only the WWE title, something that Cody has said his father has never won, how come he didn't just challenge for that? Maybe that could have been their out right there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but then but then you're kind of ignoring the Universal title as well.
Yeah.
And I think the plan is to take both off him because he's not a full-time wrestler anymore. We've seen this with Brock Lesnar. We've seen this with Goldberg. When these guys can't wrestle week in and week out, that hurts the business. You know what I mean? That does hurt the business. You had John Cena, who you would see every single week wrestling. Doesn't matter who it was. That's good, because like the fans get to see championship matches happen on Raw or SmackDown. You don't see that anymore. Because Roman's now this big time draw, he's only going to defend him on pay-per-views.
Yeah.
And then like if you buy tickets to see a champion or someone like Roman, he's not there every week. Then what do? You know what I mean? If one of my kids was interested and they want to see Roman Reigns and we buy tickets, but that just happens to be one of the weeks. That happens to be one of the weeks he's not there. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like
Here's another idea. How about Roman Reigns, right? Defeats Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, right? All right, hear me out here.
okay.
Defeats Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Makes it to 1,000 days, and on that 1,000th day, he vacates both titles and
No,
calls it a day. Goes home.
I
Like
would hate.
like like any great fight, or greatest of all time prize fighter who goes undefeated or whatever, and be like, you know what? I'm gonna retire on top. I left my legacy. I proved my point. I got nothing else to prove. I'm done. Roman goes away for a while, obviously, vacates the title and leaves. I know it's not the most popular option, but what else is there?
Well, I gave you an option. I hate that. I would hate for him. I would absolutely hate for him to vacate those titles, because then what are you saying about the rest of your talent? What are you saying about the rest of the roster? Nobody could defeat this man. So now he's leaving, riding off to the sunset. No one can
Yes,
defeat
sir.
him.
Yes, sir.
No,
There's no
no
one else on
way.
that roster that's as big as Roman right now. So
Well,
yeah, that's
Cody,
exactly.
they see
Well,
Cody.
well,
They see
well,
Cody as one of those guys.
well,
Maybe
I don't
you
see
don't
him that
see
way
him.
just yet.
Maybe you don't see him,
Not
but
just
they
yet.
do.
I don't know, man.
They definitely see him, man. He's one of the top merchandisers right now. He's one of the top guys getting paid in that company right now.
Yeah.
You
But
know.
Roman's right there, number one.
Oh
The
yeah, of course.
bloodline, Roman Reigns, they're right there, number one top merchandise sellers. So
I think Cody wins, Ricky.
I got Roman winning. So I don't.
I think
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that they're not going to try to make it to 1,000 days.
Cody wins, and then at SummerSlam he loses the title, at least one title, to Gunther. At SummerSlam, which makes the most sense to me. And then you can split the titles up. You can go back to having two different brands with a whole different roster on each one, and doing your own thing there. But that's
I'll-
because again, like because you got to realize you have, like I said, I mentioned a bunch of guys who aren't being utilized yet, and you're going to bring guys up from NXT, guys and girls. The women's division to me needs a mix up. They need more women. They need fresh new faces, because it's the same old every week in and week out. And they have a lot of great talent on NXT. If you don't watch NXT, the women's division NXT is legit. So many women that could be stars on the main roster, man. There's so many. They could do
Mhm.
they could do a lot, and I'm glad I'm seeing that, because I think WWE women's division is pretty weak right now. As opposed from the main ones like Rhea, Bianca, Becky, Charlotte,
Right.
Bailey. Other than them, it's like you have to bring in Trish and Lita to kind of get the needle moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever.
They could use a little boost there in that division. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I
they really
agree.
can. But you're gonna get some guys up too. I wouldn't be surprised if you have someone like Grayson Waller coming up. I wouldn't be surprised. I could pencil 100% in that Braun Breaker makes his debut the night after the Raw after WrestleMania. It just
I'd be
makes so
shocked if
much.
he didn't.
I mean, too. I'd be shocked if he didn't. And that's a fresh new face, someone that you could use, someone who's been a champion in NXT, who has the name, who has the look, who has the talk. Like I feel like he'd do great.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. You're gonna get more guys. You're gonna get more women. You don't know what's going on with Jay White. He's still 50-50 from what I read. Still a free agent. He could choose WWE any given moment. That's another guy
Mhm.
you have to make room for. It just makes sense to get the titles off Roman as soon as possible, and because right now you're handcuffed with that. That way you have way more freedom creatively.
Right. I mean, yeah, your theory is good too. It's just like it's just like how I just wonder why didn't they go that route? I mean, it was right there for them, but
It really was.
it really was, the WWE title, he could have went for just one title, and then Roman loses the Universal title like at SummerSlam or something, because really, I think what it really comes down to, I think it's the Universal title that is where he's at 1,000 days, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's that title alone,
Yeah,
you know.
it would be that title alone. They're not going to say that, but it would be that title because remember he won the WWE championship against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, but he was a champion way before that.
Yeah, he was the Universal champ. So that, I mean, oh, man, that was a gimme right there. You know,
Yeah.
you could still go the 1,000 days as Universal Champion and still lose to Cody, losing just the WWE title at WrestleMania. I mean, it was right there for them. So it was right there.
Not the case, man. So you have for sure Roman winning at WrestleMania. I have Cody Rhodes. I think that'd be great to see who's right in that one.
We'll see, man. Let's see what happens. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Guys, once again, you're listening to Star Six. I'm sorry, you're listening to the main event brought to you by Star Six.
Stars.
Right, no, right.
Star Six Media brought to you by the main event.
Yeah, exactly. Star Six Media. You're listening to the main event brought to you by Star Six Media here on Star Six Media, and we're being brought to you live. We're live. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch,
We're live, pal,
and Twitter. Yes, pal, we're live. But we're not the only show, guys. We're not the only show that we have here on Star Six Media. You have the JCA Sports Podcast. You have Slot Shot, which is a hockey podcast. You have the EAFP Podcast, which is soccer. You have 3 Up, 3 Down, which is baseball. Rick, I don't know if you've been watching the World Baseball Classic, but it's been amazing. Mexico got eliminated yesterday by Japan. Japan defeated USA today to win it all. It's like a World Cup of baseball, and they just won it all. They beat USA today in the finals. Nice. So congrats to Japan for that. And of course, we have shows. As I mentioned, we even have Only Football, and on Only Football we have Kyle and Rick, who are great. They go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's how about this? Let's introduce Kyle and Rick to the people at home watching the main event, so that way you know exactly what you're getting at Only Football.
Yep. What's up, everybody? It's Kyle.
And I'm Rick, and welcome to Only Football, where we talk about everything going on in the NFL. You can catch our live streams on Mondays for trivia and Q&A, Thursdays for news around the league, as well as episodes of Only Football with Kyle that you can catch on Instagram and YouTube every Wednesday.
Follow us to keep up with the latest football news, trades, off-season rumors, and our favorite conspiracies here on Only Football. See ya!
See ya!
That's right. It's Only Football with Rick and Kyle. They just told you when you can watch them. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So make sure to tune in. They will be live tomorrow after the JCA Sports Podcast. I would be live with Eric and John as we go inside Chicago sports and just national sports in general. We'll definitely be talking about the World Baseball Classic. So if you were a fan, if you were watching it, make sure to tune in tomorrow because we'll definitely be talking about that. Mexico stole our hearts, man. They were so good. Nobody expected them to be good, but they were great. But they ran into the champs, the buzzsaw in Japan. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Going back to the main event, Ricky sticking with WWE in the wrestling world again. Going back into the dirt sheets and the rumors that I've been reading around. There's talk that Batista was supposed to be in the Hall of Fame this year. He was going to be another big name, if not the biggest name in the Hall of Fame this year, right next to Rey Mysterio. But they're saying that might not be the case anymore because of his Hollywood schedule. There's also reports Stacy Keibler is the next to be announced as a Hall of Fame. She definitely deserves it. With that being said, Ricky, I had a question. But you know what, man? You and I both watch wrestling our whole lives. Right. Who do you think deserves to be the next Hall of Famer that isn't a Hall of Famer already?
I mean, Batista was right there high on my list, man. So I'm a little disappointed. And then this year, it's actually perfect because they're in Hollywood. Yeah. But what also would have been perfect since he's really not all that interested in wrestling anymore. The Rock. I mean, it would have been perfect for him to go into the Hall of Fame this year in Hollywood. Right?
Yeah. What are they waiting on? Why isn't The Rock a Hall of Famer?
I don't know. I mean, it's because for years now, it's been like, are we gonna get The Rock to wrestle Roman Reigns? They've been doing this for years now, and The Rock never seems to be available because of his Hollywood schedule, and I guess that's the only reason why he hasn't been in yet. Stone Cold Steve Austin's in already. How come The Rock isn't? If he wasn't gonna If he wasn't gonna wrestle Roman Reigns this year, he could have at least went into the Hall of Fame.
But what does wrestling matter? You have Rey Mysterio still wrestling. He's going to have a match at WrestleMania, and he's going to get inducted in the Hall of Fame. Stone Cold had a match last year. He was a Hall of Famer. Goldberg's a Hall of Famer. He's already had matches even afterwards. I mean, how many more wrestlers? The Undertaker, after his Hall of Fame, still had matches. What does that have to do with anything?
Wait, I don't think so. No, the Undertaker, I don't think so. Not yet, at least. not yet. Because wasn't he just inducted last year, right?
Was it last year?
Was it last year the Undertaker inducted?
Right. Yeah, you're probably right.
He hasn't had a match since. But you're right. The Rey Mysterio thing was surprising to me because he's still active. We don't know if that's gonna lead to a retirement after his match with his son Dominic. But yeah, man, there is The Rock. This year would have been perfect. Batista would have been perfect. It's not gonna happen. Is Tori Wilson in there? Since we're talking Keebler, when I think of Stacy Keebler, I also think about Tori Wilson. I'm not sure if she's in it.
I want to say she is, but I don't think so.
I don't know either.
I'll look her up right now, but yeah, the Stacy going in is definitely good. I haven't seen her in a while. I don't even know how she looks anymore.
Tori Wilson?
No, Stacy Keebler.
I haven't seen. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while either. Tori Wilson still looks good for her age.
Of course, yeah, she was. She was. Tori Wilson was inducted in 2019.
Okay, so she's in.
Yeah.
Anyone else I can think of? I don't know, man. Triple H on his own. He's been inducted as part of DX already.
Yeah.
On his own. He hasn't gone in yet.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's actually a really good one.
Vince McMahon. Too soon. But imagine him in I mean, it'll happen after he's already, passed.
Right.
If he ever man, because this guy. Vince McMahon never dies.
I think once the Big Show is officially out of AEW, I mean, you haven't seen him, but I mean, he's somebody who should be inducted for sure in the Hall of Fame. Booker T's already been inducted.
Chris Jericho, once he's retired, I'm sure
he's retired, definitely deserves to be in 100%. Randy Orton, whenever he decides to get close to retirement, he's a shoe-in for sure.
John Cena.
They could induct him too. That's what I'm saying. Like, come on now. If Rey Mysterio is still active, there should be no reason why John Cena, The Rock is probably the biggest one. There's no way he should have taken this long. No way.
No, especially since he's not really committed to wrestling anymore.
Right, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and this year would have been perfect.
Yes,
WrestleMania goes Hollywood. Right. So him and Batista, but I guess we'll wait until the next time they come back to Hollywood or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
man. Hopefully they do it. Hopefully they get inducted next year because you're right. Because those two guys for sure 100% deserve that. But I guess that was a good one. I wasn't even thinking about The Rock. I'm not gonna lie. Because to me, I was like, "There's no way he isn't a Hall of Famer." But you're right, he isn't. I'm like, "What the hell?" That's so weird.
Yeah,
so weird. All right, Ricky, let's get into the co-main event of the evening. You sent a message the other day about Bray Wyatt, and it was from the Conan and Disco Inferno show. What's it called? Keeping It Real? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, keeping it 100.
Keeping It 100. A really great podcast. Yeah, really great podcast for those who like to hear wrestling. Those two guys, Conan, Disco Inferno. Those guys are definitely two guys that grew up in this business, that have connections, and they just put on a great show, 100%.
Yeah.
And in that podcast, they talked about Bray Wyatt and his absence. It's been 3 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks. It'll be a month already. If he doesn't show up on Friday, it'll be a month that he personally wasn't on television.
Yeah.
We had Uncle Howdy there taking bumps against Bobby Lashley. We did have a Firefly Funhouse, I think the first week with Bray Wyatt, kind of teasing Lashley, but him himself wasn't there live. Right. And everyone's been wondering what's going on. Is it a health issue? Has he been injured? What exactly is going on? Because we just got this guy back from after being fired by Vince McMahon. He just came back, yet he's gone again. And for those who don't know, like a lot of people are already kind of skeptical with Alexa Bliss because she takes a lot of breaks for mental health issues. Well, I guess it's the same for Bray Wyatt. You want to get into that story with us?
Yeah, man. So here's the thing, when they say it's a physical issue, that's a very vague statement. If he was injured, they would have flat out said that he's injured, and
Yeah.
they would have they would have moved on. They would have moved on
Right.
with for with Bray, with Bobby Lashley's next opponent. But the thing about this is that the reason why Vince McMahon fired Bray Wyatt was because he was having these mental health issues. Um, it had to do with Brody Lee's passing. They were best friends, so it's
Yeah.
understandable. He wanted to take some time off after he had passed.
Brody Lee being Luke Harper in WWE for those who don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, tragically passed away.
Yep.
I think it might have been 2 years. It's been 2 years now.
I feel like 2 or 3,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, due to a rare lung. I think they said it was a rare lung disease or something. I forgot exactly what it was, but
Yep.
you know, so rest in peace to Brody, Mr. Brody Lee. But so he has some time off for that. And for those who remember, he did cheat on his wife that he
Yep.
had children with JoJo, who used to be the ring announcer there in WWE. We all remember her. Had a kid with her, to ask for some time off for that, and then immediately got her pregnant again. And then they had a kid and had another. He asked for some more time off. Well, to Vince McMahon, there is no days off. Vince McMahon, he may not be there now, but when Vince McMahon is there, he doesn't believe in sickness. He doesn't believe in
Mental health issues.
mental health, all this stuff. He doesn't believe in any of that, right?
Right.
So that was a little too much for him, and he was already getting pushed down the card, as you know. And I'm saying this from the show, that what was said on the show, keeping it 100, that um he was already looking to get fired, because he was becoming sort of a nuisance for Vince McMahon, until he
Yeah.
created the Fiend character, which
Yep.
ended up becoming a success.
Yes.
And they offered him a new contract.
Yep.
Well, once that happened, things got bad. I mean, things got bad again. I think with JoJo started happening after he um I don't know if it was during the Fiend or it was before he created Fiend. I don't remember now, but he was still having these mental health crisis, taking time off. You remember when that one WrestleMania that he had, when he had disappeared for a while, came back as the Fiend and was basically jobbed out.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, we didn't was fired.
Yeah. So
Well,
basically, the way the story went was, as you just said, he. So WWE was already mad at him before. So WWE was already mad at him because he cheated on his wife with JoJo, and so
uh-huh,
then when he was going to court with his wife reported that
there we go.
the financials that he made in WWE were false. That he wasn't
That
reporting
happened.
the
Yeah,
entire thing.
that happened
Yeah.
before the Fiend character. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
So that happened before the Fiend. So then, the thing is, the thing that got him in trouble with WWE is that because she reported that his financials weren't all there, they then brought in WWE in court to kind of testify whether they were or they weren't. And
Yeah,
with WWE being a publicly traded company, that news obviously went out. It was
it
kind of
went
bad
public.
publicity. Yeah, it went public. It was bad publicity for them. Vince was so mad that he was pissed at the fact, and was gonna fire Bray Wyatt. Believe it or
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
it was then that Bray Wyatt came up with the Fiend character. That was kind of his last leg at making up for everything he did, and which was, like, as you mentioned, a success. That they then gave him a massive contract for him to then continue that character, because they was making a lot of money, belts, masks, merchandise, t-shirts, you name it. That thing was,
action figures
when
probably. Yeah.
when he was a Fiend, he was over. But
Oh yeah.
then the passing of Brody Lee, his best friend,
Right.
him getting JoJo pregnant and her struggling, took some time off for both, and then immediately getting her pregnant again, wanted more time off.
Yeah.
And to them, that was the last straw. They're like, there's no way. So they gave him the time off, all the time off that he needed. They gave it to him. So then when he finally came back at WrestleMania, he was overweight.
Yeah.
And because he was overweight, he wasn't able to do so much. And that really pissed off Vince McMahon. Like, we're giving you all this time off. We literally bend over backwards for you. And then you come back and you repay us with this.
Yeah. I remember at the time when they fired
It was
Bray
big.
Wyatt,
Yeah.
when Bray Wyatt was released, we, me and you were shocked. We're like, what?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what's Vince McMahon thinking? You know, it wasn't until much later that the news, was starting to come out that, he was kind of becoming really difficult to deal with,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
and so, and then, okay, so then he gets fired. He comes, Triple H takes over creative
Yeah.
while Vince McMahon is away, and then he gets brought back, right? And
He
he's
gets brought back.
offered, he's
Yep.
offered another big contract,
Three
on the
three and
par
a
with
half
Cody.
million. Yeah.
Yes,
$3.5 million dollar contract for Bray Wyatt, which is huge. They were saying that the top three guys right now in the WWE are Roman Reigns. They get paid. Are Roman
yeah,
Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Bray Wyatt. Those are the top three paid wrestlers in WWE. Not to mention Brock Lesnar, he gets paid per appearance, but those three guys get guaranteed money. They have
yeah,
the top three guaranteed money in the business. If Brock wanted to, if the more he shows up, the more he gets paid. So he's obviously in that mix as well. He can get paid more than them, whatever. But for
yeah,
those three guys, those are gets guaranteed money. Those are the top three guys. And you
right,
see that Roman Reigns is heavily featured. Cody Rhodes is heavily featured, and you have to be if you're paying those guys all that money. Bray
yeah,
Wyatt, being one of those top three guys, is supposed to be heavily featured, but he hasn't been showing up.
no, no, he hasn't. And another thing about it is that the top merchants are Roman Reigns and the Bloodline,
And Cody Rhodes
Cody Rhodes, and Sami Zayn.
and Sami
And if
Zayn.
you know, and if you notice, Bray Wyatt is nowhere near the top 5, top 6 of, top merchandise sellers. And the
Nope.
reason being is because this whole Uncle Howdy storyline and everything that he's brought back with is not clicking.
Nope.
It's not working. It's not it's just isn't doing it for a lot of people, including myself.
Right.
That
I'm with you.
nothing really happens.
Right.
So
So yeah. So for a guy who's getting paid $3.5 million, but you're not getting your return on investment, that's
right,
the issue.
that's the issue.
Yep.
So here, and I talked about this on the show before. The original plan for WrestleMania was Bray Wyatt versus Brock Lesnar,
Yes.
and come to find out that it was something that actually Bray Wyatt wanted. I didn't think at first that was what he wanted. I thought it was a total Vince McMahon idea, but it was something he actually wanted. The supposed story being that Brock Lesnar is going to go into WrestleMania and squash Bray Wyatt, like
Yeah. Beat him.
absolutely
Yeah.
destroy him.
Yep.
And then, thus, what happens is that Uncle Howdy shows up and tells Bray, "See, you need to unleash the monster. You can't be yourself. You need to let the monster out and become I guess, the monster, and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, this and that, right?"
He was supposed to bring back a new monster, something like the Fiend, like, but in order for that to happen, he needed to kind of die in a way. His character needed to die, and then
Right.
Rebirth comes out, this big monster. But who's big and bad enough to do something like that? Well, the Beast himself, Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
the kicker is Brock Lesnar doesn't want to work with Bray Wyatt.
Nothing.
He doesn't want to have anything to do with the storyline. He doesn't, because if you think about it, Brock Lesnar gets paid a shitload of money for doing the bare minimum. All right.
Right.
All right. Let's be honest, right?
Right. He has
He
to kind
he
of sell it with Bray Wyatt.
he wants to be home more than he wants to be there in WWE. If he gets into a feud with Bray Wyatt, that means he has to show up for work every week in order to properly tell the story.
Then he has to
You know
kind
what
of be scared, and you
He
have
has
this
to
all
act,
these
he has to act and pretend he's afraid of Uncle Howdy and all this crap. And nah, Brock
Right.
doesn't. I don't think Brock's for that shit, man. I don't think he
Right.
wants to do it. So he passes it up, and then it was passed on to Bobby Lashley, which was not the original intent, I guess, that Bray was going for. And thus, ever since then, he's disappeared.
Yeah.
And there are rumors going around that saying that Brock rejecting the idea caused him to have another mental break, I guess you would say. Right?
Yeah, another mental health agenda, or I guess another mental health scare. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, you're
I
right.
don't know how to
guess,
say it, like another mental health crisis, I guess, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But not only that, I don't think it was only because Brock rejected the idea and changed the plans. It's also because now creative which includes probably Triple H, Vince McMahon, since he's head of the board, and
Yeah.
Nick Khan, who's CEO of the company. They're looking at this and say, you know what, we want to bring back the Fiend instead, because we want to go back to the tried and true, and
Yeah.
bring back the Fiend, so that way we can get our return on investment for
Right.
paying you $3.5 million a year,
Yep.
right? Because the Fiend was successful, sold a lot of merch, sold a lot of masks, action figures, all this stuff, right?
Yep.
You sold tickets. People wanted to see the Fiend, So apparently, what they want is for this story to ultimately, I guess, the monster to be the Fiend itself, and
Yeah.
not whatever Bray Wyatt had in mind or had planned. So, and I'm pretty sure, and that's why we saw. I mean, you see the evidence. That's why the Firefly Funhouse was just on Raw, SmackDown, a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
So you see the signs there that WWE ultimately wants to go that route, and they want to scrap this whole Uncle Howdy thing. So I believe that as well. I mean, you remember the rumors were creative issues. Well, that could be classified as creative issues right there, and that's what probably ultimately led to Bray Wyatt having another mental health crisis.
Yeah. I mean,
and then not showing up for work.
Yeah, because you're right. Because one of these out of these 3 weeks, one of these weeks was compensated. So they knew about him leaving, or they knew about him not showing up. It was almost like he called off, so he got compensated for it. But one of these other weeks it weren't. It was like a no call, no show, and he was
the Madison Square Garden show.
Yeah, he just didn't show up.
There were people the New Yorkers were probably expecting to see him, and he wasn't there.
And he wasn't there. So there's that. Those are major issues to me. Especially for what's supposed to be one of your top 3 guys in the business.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's definitely a major issue there. But I don't blame Vince, Triple H, Tony Khan, not Tony Khan, but Nick Khan. I don't blame these guys, because you're right. It's like, we're paying you all this money, and we've had issues with you in the past with you not being able to show because of mental health issues, and now you're bringing this up again. Right. What's the point? You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Of course, if this is how it's going to be, and you're not getting over. I mean, they even said LA Knight got over more than Bray Wyatt within that feud.
He was outshining him in that feud.
He was outshining him, and that's an issue, because LA Knight's not making nowhere near the money Bray Wyatt is.
And he should, man. That dude is great. That dude is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay the man. Pay the man.
Pay the man. Absolutely, 100%.
But I mean, yeah, man. He's becoming more of a headache now than more of a liability than an asset now at this point.
Yeah. And before we were like, how dare they? You know what I mean? Like what's going on? But now we see it. Now we see what Vince is going through.
Right. Because WWE is a business.
Yeah.
And they want to get the return on investment. The Fiend is the tried and true. And if I'm Bray Wyatt getting paid $3.5 million a year, dude, fuck it. I mean, it's not what I originally intended, but you know what? It was something I created. It became successful, and I'm gonna get featured, and I'm gonna get paid, and I got kids at home, right?
Yeah.
So what, man? I mean,
exactly.
Come on, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about Bray.
I don't know either. Like mental health issues are legit, right? We see it more now with this generation of people growing up, and maybe it's because people older than us or people like us, we were too macho or too scared to, or I don't know, just maybe we were always brought up to hold it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think mental health has always been around. It's just that everybody, different generations dealt with it differently, and so
yeah. So
now apparently now it's more acceptable to admit it, and I think that's a mistake. But
I think that's great.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's
just. I mean, I might. Yeah. I mean, don't shoot me for my opinion, but I know everybody hates opinions.
It's your opinion.
But I think like, okay, you can admit it to yourself, but to go out and I don't know, man. Whatever. We'll move on.
Yeah, we'll move on for sure. You're listening to the main event. You're listening to the main event brought to you by Star 6 Media. Ricky, let's get into the main event, man. Let's get out of wrestling and get into some boxing, man, to the main event of the evening. This Saturday, March 25th, Caleb Plant faces David the Monster Benavidez for the interim super middleweight WBC championship.
Yes, sir.
Well, here we are. This is a fight you and I, Ricky, have been waiting for all month, all year, basically. As soon as we've heard this fight coming up, you and I we're definitely excited for this fight. It's finally happening. Yeah. The winner of this fight, like I said, becomes the interim champion, a belt or a championship that's being held by Canelo Alvarez in that division, but hasn't been fighting in that division. So, you got to move on. Let's get an interim champion here, and whenever he's ready to fight, then we're ready to fight. So, but here we are. Caleb Plant, David Benavidez. Ricky, talk to us about this fight, man.
Well, there's a lot of legit bad blood between these two. It goes back years. A lot of back and forth. There was a confrontation in a gym between Plant and David and David's family. Hold on one sec. Shit, my microphone. Hello, you hear me?
Yep, there we hear you.
All right. So yeah, this goes back years. This is a feud that goes back years. Especially David's father, Jose Benavidez Sr., talks a lot of shit. More than he probably should have. He should just let his son do the talking more. But so yeah, there's a lot of legit beef between these guys, and they've been wanting to fight for years, and now it's gonna happen, right? There's also implications with this fight, being at 168 pounds. For that interim WBC super middleweight championship, Canelo Alvarez is the champion. He is gonna fight John Ryder, on May, around May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And then he's going to be open again in September, right? The rumor going around, or the talk going around, is that he wants to fight. His goal apparently is to fight Dimitri Bivol, going back up to 175 pounds, which I don't care for. To be quite honest, don't care for. You got business here in your division. Handle the business.
It's like I said. How do you go trying to conquer a kingdom when you can't even defend your own?
Right. If John Ryder can get a fight with Canelo, why can't one of these guys? Right?
Exactly. What the fuck's going on? Exactly.
All right. So, anyways, let's get back to March 25th. All right. All right. We're gonna piss off the Canelo fans today, man.
I mean, whatever, dude.
Right. So going back to March 25th. All right. Caleb Plant, he's fought Canelo before. All right.
Right.
And he lost. So now he's trying to rebound and he wants to get that rematch back. He wants to get that win back. All right. He changed up his training camp. He brought in a new trainer, and he's worked on his skills, he's worked on his power. And then he goes and knocks out Anthony Durrell, a former champion in the WBC. Knocks him out cold. Right? Gets the knockout of the year last year. David Benavidez has been undefeated, 26-0, 23 knockouts. All right. He hasn't had the big, he hasn't had that one big opponent yet. That one opponent that will actually put him on the map, put him right there towards the elite. Caleb Plant, after having fought Canelo Alvarez, he's already considered one of those guys. And this is a big step up in competition for David Benavidez.
Yep.
All right. So, what I would say now, if I'm looking at both fighters, because I've been following their training camps. All right. Yeah. The one strength that Caleb Plant does have, he's a technician. He moves around, he sticks and moves. I would say he's probably, quicker on the feet with more footwork, probably the faster jab, and just an all-around great boxer, right?
Yeah.
David Benavidez, his strengths, he's a big guy, he's a volume puncher, he has power. He doesn't have exactly one knockout punch power, but he has enough power to just torture his opponents in there.
Yeah.
And he throws punches and bunches and forces either the referee or the corner to throw in the towel and stop the fight. That is why he's called the Mexican Monster. That was the term that Mike Tyson called him.
Yeah.
So, and if I would say there's weaknesses, look, Caleb Plant, one of the main weaknesses that he has is that he tends to start really great in the earlier rounds, but then tends to fade as the rounds go on. He's really susceptible to the body shots. And and he gets hurt. He gets hurt when he gets hit to the body. This is something that Canelo exposed when they fought. right?
Yep.
Caleb Plant actually looked pretty good early on, but then he faded, and then Canelo went to the body and put him down in the 8th round, I believe. David Benavidez, I would say his defense or lack thereof defense is probably his biggest weakness. All right. He doesn't have much, he hasn't shown much footwork, he hasn't shown much head movement. You know, he tends to rely on his offense to be his defense, but the reality is that he is a really big target. He's hittable and he can get hurt. He has been hurt before.
Yeah.
So there is an opportunity there for Caleb Plant because if you follow his training camp, he's packing on the muscle. Caleb Plant is packing on the muscle.
Oh, he has to. David's a big guy.
He's a big guy. So his keys to victory here is to not let himself get bullied by David Benavidez and to try to catch him coming in, because David Benavidez does tend to plod forward, not much head movement and not much footwork. He comes in and he's trying to destroy you. So right. Plant's best chance is to try to catch him in, move around a little bit, but try to catch him coming in. However, Benavidez has been working on his head movement in this training camp. He's working on his defense. So both guys have been working on their weaknesses, and they're taking this fight very, very seriously.
You got to. If you're Benavidez, for someone like Caleb Plant, who's, as you mentioned, already faced Canelo Alvarez, kind of already has the blueprint almost in, I guess, not the blueprint to beat him, but he knows what to expect against someone like Canelo Alvarez. So this is a huge match for David Benavidez. This is a huge match to kind of test yourself to see if you're even on that level. So he definitely has to, gain that head movement, because if not, it's going to be a long night for him for sure.
It could be, yeah. And for Caleb Plant, like I said, he has to sort of stand his ground a little bit, but at the same time, use his superior footwork, move around David Benavidez, connect, try to catch him coming in. Because if he doesn't, it definitely will be a long night for him, because, David Benavidez is a notorious slow starter, but as the rounds go on, he turns up the heat and he puts a beating on his opponents. And especially since Caleb Plant has been susceptible to the body punches, that's Benavidez is one of his strengths. He loves going to the body.
Yeah.
So, if he doesn't work on that, it could be a very long night for him.
Interesting matchup, man, with these two guys. Because you just said it. Plant's weakness caters to Benavidez's strength, and vice versa. Yeah. Benavidez's weakness caters to Plant's strength. So it's like
it's a beautiful fight.
Something's got to give. Something's definitely got to give with these two fighters. So I'm curious to see who's been doing what happens in this fight, between these two guys. But man, regardless of the fact, we're winning as fans because we're going to see two great boxers getting it on. And again, like, the storyline itself is great, but let's just not ignore the fight, because the fight's going to be great as well. But with that being said, Ricky, who do you have winning this fight? Do you think Caleb Plant, after losing to Canelo Alvarez, who's been boxing a lot better, who's been fighting a lot better, it's that one analogy, iron sharpens iron, after losing to Canelo, maybe learn something, maybe dug deep and can come back and win the interim championship and face Canelo and be a much different fighter? Or do you think Benavidez beats Caleb Plant and finally gets the recognition he deserves and the fight that he deserves with Canelo Alvarez in the future? But who do you think wins this fight here between these two guys?
When this was first announced, I was like, okay, I'm going Benavidez all the way, right?
Yeah.
I think it would be too much for Plant. Then I started seeing the changes that Plant has been doing, the adjustments that he's made, the new head coach that he brought in. He's no longer showboating. He's no longer showboating. He's no longer like he did in his earlier fights. He's packing on the muscle, and he's improved a lot.
Yeah.
He's also worked on his power. And then I started to slightly go, you know what? Caleb Plant actually has a chance of beating Benavidez.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I was starting to lean, but then I snap out of it. I'm like, dude, the way I see this fight going, Benavidez is, especially since he's working on the head movement, he's gonna do what he does best. He's gonna plod forward. He's gonna move his head. If he does, improve on that, on the head movement and everything like that, and he's just gonna come in, and I think Plant is gonna look good in the beginning rounds. I think he absolutely is gonna look great in the beginning rounds. But then as it starts going to the 6th, 7th, 8th, I think that's when Benavidez is gonna be turning up the heat, and he's just gonna unload on Plant and ultimately probably stop him with a body shot the same way Canelo did and put him down. So I got Benavidez winning probably like in the 8th round, TKO stoppage.
TKOs. I'm going with you, man. I have to. I was gonna. I think I'm right there with you exactly 100%. I want it. Like, right off the bat when this fight happened, just like you, I said Benavidez is gonna win this. Finally, we're gonna get a Benavidez versus Canelo fight in the future, or at least the narrative is going to push it, right? But then, like as you mentioned, the more and more we see Caleb Plant fight, the more and more we see him talk. He's different. He's a different. This is a different Caleb Plant than we have seen, even during the Canelo fight he had. This is different. This is a way different Caleb Plant. I mean, and you mentioned it. Different trainers, different demeanor. He's a lot more humble. A lot more technical, a lot more sound with his boxing and his mindset, which is only going to benefit him.
Also, I'll dare say this: he has nothing to lose here. Really.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where I was going to go. Exactly.
Yeah. He has nothing to lose here. He already fought Canelo. He got paid. Yep. He's living a charmed life. Yep. Benavidez. This really the pressure really is on Benavidez here because
in a way, right? because Caleb Plant, yes, he lost to Canelo, but that just like how Canelo wants to go back up and fight Dimitri Bivol because that's that one stain. That's the one that's like the one to Canelo going up and losing like that. That's gonna bother him forever. For Caleb Plant, for him, he's the best in his mind. He's the best boxer in the world. But when you face someone like Canelo, and that's your test. That's your test right there. That basically determines who you are in this field and what you are in this field. And for him to lose to arguably one of the greatest fighters ever in boxing, that's gonna bother you because that's gonna make you feel like, you know what, I'm not that great. I'm always gonna be second fiddle to this guy. So if you're Caleb Plant, no, I think there is a bit more pressure because you don't have as much time as David Benavidez. If you lose this fight, you're never gonna get a shot at Canelo again. If you want a shot to be the greatest middleweight champion or super middleweight champion or just boxer, you have to beat the best. And if you can't do that, you're mid.
Yeah. As MJF would say, mid.
Yeah, as the great MJF says, you're mid. Yep. And I think there is some pressure there for Caleb Plant because in order for him to even smell a fight with Canelo again, he has to go through Benavidez.
I agree. But I would say there is probably a little more pressure on Benavidez here because this is the guy that everybody's saying that supposedly Canelo is avoiding.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Now, there's a lot of people that think that if a fight between Benavidez and Canelo were to happen, that Benavidez would give him a pretty rough night, a pretty tough fight.
Yeah.
Right? Some say that he might belong there. So if you can't beat the guy that Canelo beat, then all this hype, all this talk, well, I guess everybody would say, well, Canelo was right all along. I guess that's why he didn't want to fight you. He didn't think you were on his level. Right? And sure enough, you're not. So there is a little pressure there for Benavidez. He's been trying to break through. He's been trying to get this fight with a lot of the big guys, the elite, especially Canelo. So there's probably a little more pressure there for him. So he needs this win in order to finally break through.
Oh, that's what makes this fight. That's what makes both what you and I just said. Those are the reasons what makes this fight even greater than what it seems to be. Because you have both guys who are literally going for the same thing, who do have pressure to becoming the greatest in their field, in their division. And there's only one guy stopping them from doing it. That's Canelo Alvarez. But both guys know in order for them to even get a shot at Canelo, they need to win this fight. So there's a lot of the line between these two guys. The super middleweight interim champion will be crowned. And man, I'm excited. I'm 100% excited for this fight.
I'm looking forward to this, man. One of the three big fights I'm looking forward to this year for sure.
Yeah, so, we both got David Benavidez winning, but I don't think you and I will either. We won't be mad if it's Caleb Plant either because the guy's great.
Yeah, he is. So, a lot of implications here, man. So it's going to be very interesting to see who wins this fight, and if either one of these guys will get a big major fight later on in the year, more
Yeah.
specifically September. So
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
have to wait and see.
You imagine a David Benavidez, Canelo Alvarez, both Mexican for Mexican Independence Day in September.
That is a huge fight.
Oh,
Huge fight.
Huge.
Will it happen? Will it happen though?
Will it happen? Right. Even if Benavidez wins it, it's not guaranteed. Canelo holds the power.
It's like Benavidez said. You know, he's been Canelo's mandatory for like the past 2 or 3 fights now.
Yeah.
So it's not happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Well,
And
I don't see any reason if he beats Caleb Plant, the guy that the Canelo had beaten 2 years ago, and especially if he beats him in a much more devastating fashion than Canelo did, I don't see any reason why that fight does not happen, other than the obvious.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Other than the obvious, he's ducking
Right.
him.
Yeah.
If he does that, I lose all respect. I don't care what you say about Canelo. I don't care what he's done, all the accolades, all the championships. I don't care. To me, it's not. I'm not a Canelo hater. I love Canelo. I think he's one of the greatest boxers to ever live. But it's not about just the skill. It's about you. Look, Ric Flair said it best: to beat the man, you got to beat the man. Canelo is the man, but you can't be ducking fights, man. You can't be. You cannot be ducking fights, especially if you're the champ. If you're scared of losing, then you're not a real champ. Because everybody loses. You're not going to want to.
Yeah, I don't think he would lose anything if he were to lose. I mean, he's still, he's still Canelo. He's still, he's still one of the greatest fighters in the world.
Yeah.
So,
what I don't want to see is more time go by and then you're facing David Benavidez, much older, much slower, and then you have an excuse. If that's what you're waiting for.
That's what Mayweather was a master at that. He would age out his fight. He aged out Pacquiao before he actually fought him.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so if that's what you're doing, then you know what, man. It is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, you listen to the main event, guys. Brought to you by Star 6 Media. It's been a great show. We got to end it because we don't want to go too late in the night for you guys. But man, we appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys always, as always. Me and my brother, we're definitely interested. We're definitely going to be talking about this fight next week on Tuesday. Make sure to tune in Tuesday at 9 p.m. My brother and I will be on. We'll be talking about this fight, this Caleb Plant, David Benavidez fight. We'll talk about more WWE and AEW as the week goes on. We'll see what happens this Wednesday night on Dynamite and Friday night on SmackDown. And then, of course, UFC. UFC 287 will be coming up. I think that's is that Saturday? Is that next Saturday? Not this Saturday coming up, but the one after.
I think so. Or 2 weeks.
April.
We do have a fight night this week. The main event is Marlon Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, which should be a good fight.
It should be a good fight.
We'll probably too.
We'll preview
that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that fight. We'll definitely talk about that fight this Saturday for sure. Make sure to tune in for that. Look at more wrestling, more boxing, you name it. Make sure to tune in because we have a great show for you guys. And of course, follow us on Instagram at Star6 Media. And follow us on TikTok, man. Our TikTok's blowing up. So follow us on TikTok at Star6 Media. Trust me, you guys won't regret it. Ricky, I appreciate it, man. Anything you want to say before we go?
I appreciate you too, bro. And thanks everybody for supporting us. And look out for us next week, man. We'll have a great show next week for you guys, just like today.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for watching the main event. And for my brother Enrique Contreras, my name is Zay Contreras. We will see you guys next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is